The war between the Human Alliance and the Varelia Empire had been going on for 7 long years. Battles were fought across stars, through asteroid belts, and over burned-out planets. No one remembered who fired the first shot anymore, only that each side had lost too much to stop. The latest clash had been over the shattered moon of Kelvaris 9. It was supposed to be a decisive strike for the humans, but in the end, the fight left both fleets broken and scattered. Sergeant Cole Rayner's boots clanged against the hull of the human salvage shuttle Iron Hand as it docked with a drifting Varelia cruiser. Cole's job wasn't glorious. He wasn't there to charge into enemy fire or wave a flag. He was part of the cleanup crew, moving through silent wrecks to pull out supplies. Or survivors. His commander's voice crackled in his helmet. "All right, Rayner, in and out. We're looking for intact tech or food rations. Anything else is a waste of time." Cole grunted in reply and stepped through the airlock. The Varelia cruiser's corridors were dark except for the faint emergency lights that flickered like dying stars. The air smelled metallic, like blood and burnt wiring. Gravity was low, making every step feel strange. Cole moved carefully, scanning for movement. His pulse was steady. He had been in more dangerous situations before, but there was always something unnerving about enemy ships. It wasn't fear of an ambush. It was the thought that hours ago these halls had been filled with life. Now only echoes remained. He passed fallen Varelia soldiers, tall, graceful figures with skin like burnished metal and eyes that glowed faintly even in death. They were beautiful in a way that made it hard to remember they were enemies. Cole didn't stop to look too long. He had a job. His scanner beeped faintly. Life signs, faint and fading, 2 corridors down. His commander's voice came again. Probably a glitch. Could be a dying power cell. Cole frowned. The reading was erratic, but it was there. "Still checking it," he replied, not waiting for approval. He moved through a warped bulkhead and into what looked like the cruiser's throne chamber. It was huge, the walls decorated with silver banners, some torn and drifting in the thin air. In the center was a raised platform, half collapsed from an explosion. Beneath a pile of shattered plating and tangled cables, something moved. Cole froze, then hurried forward. He dropped to his knees, pulling at the debris. Underneath was a young Varelia woman, her armor torn, her breathing shallow. Her skin was a pale silver blue, her long hair tangled and matted with blood. Her eyes fluttered open for a second, and he saw they were a deep violet, glazed with pain. She whispered something in her own language, too soft to catch. Cole tapped his comm. "I've got a live one here." A pause. Then his commander's voice came, cold and sharp. "Negative, Rayner. Leave her. She's Varelia. Enemy. Probably royalty or high command. Too dangerous. We're not bringing her back." Cole looked at the woman again. She was barely conscious, bleeding out, her hands weakly pushing at the wreckage as if trying to free herself. He didn't know her name, her rank, or her crimes, but he knew what leaving her here meant. "She's hurt bad," Cole said. "I can get her out." "That's an order, Rayner. Move on. We've got other ships to hit before we pull out." Cole's jaw tightened. He'd followed orders his whole career, but now, staring at this wounded woman, he couldn't walk away. "With all due respect, sir." "Shove it." He shut off the comm before his commander could reply. The debris was heavier than it looked. Cole's gloves scraped against jagged metal as he pulled it away. The woman, princess or soldier he didn't know, winced in pain with each movement. Her breathing was ragged. The low gravity helped, but her injuries were bad. He could see where part of her side armor had been punched in. When she was free enough, he slid his arms under her, lifting her carefully. She was lighter than he expected, her body fragile compared to human soldiers. Her head lolled against his shoulder, and for a moment, he thought she'd gone still. But then she breathed in again, shallow but steady. He moved quickly through the cruiser, retracing his steps. His boots echoed in the empty halls, the only sound besides her faint breathing. Halfway back to the airlock, his comm lit up again, not from his commander, but from his squad mate, Mikkel. "Raynor, what the hell are you doing? Command says you went dark." "I've got a survivor," Cole said shortly. "From their side?" Mikkel sounded incredulous. "You're gonna get yourself court-martialed." "Better that than leave her to die," Cole said, and shut the channel. At the docking port, the Iron Hand's hatch was already starting to close. Cole kicked it open with his boot, ignoring the startled shout from the pilot. "Is that—" the pilot began. "Shut up and help me," Cole snapped. They moved the woman into the small med bay. The Iron Hand wasn't equipped for alien physiology, but Cole had enough field training to stabilize her for now. He removed what was left of her armor, careful not to tear her skin. Her blood was a strange mix of deep blue and silver, and it was everywhere. She stirred once, her eyes opening to look at him. For a moment, their gazes locked. She didn't look grateful. She looked confused, almost wary, like she couldn't understand why a human was helping her. Cole gave her a small nod. "You're safe. I've got you." Of course, she probably didn't understand a word. As the Iron Hand detached from the cruiser, Cole finally reactivated his comm to command. "I've retrieved supplies from the Varelia ship, returning to base." There was a long silence. Then his commander replied, voice icy. "Copy that, Raynor. We'll discuss your choices when you get back." Cole didn't answer. They jumped into slipstream space, the stars blurring outside the viewport. Cole sat beside the med bed, watching the woman breathe. Her pulse was faint but holding. The med scanner kept beeping, showing readings he didn't fully understand. Hours passed in silence except for the hum of the engines. Cole tried a few words in standard galactic, the trade language. "Name?" he asked gently, pointing to himself. "Cole. Raynor." She blinked at him, lips parting as if to speak, but no sound came. Then she coughed weakly, turning her head away. He leaned, back, exhaling. This wasn't going to be simple. 3 hours later, the Iron Hand's sensors picked up movement behind them, 2 small ships closing fast. Cole leaned over the console. Varelia interceptors. They must have traced his jump signature, the pilot. Cursed. "They're gaining. We can't outrun them for long." Cole's mind raced. If they caught the Iron Hand, they'd take the princess, or whoever she was, and probably kill him. But if he jumped again without plotting a safe course, they could end up drifting in deep space. The woman stirred again, her violet eyes opening wider this time. She looked at the console, then at him. Slowly, she raised a trembling hand and pointed at a set of coordinates on the nav screen, ones Cole hadn't entered. "You want us to go there?" he asked. She gave the faintest nod. It was insane to trust an enemy. But they were out of options. "Do it," Cole told the pilot. The Iron Hand veered off course and the interceptors followed, until suddenly they vanished from the radar. A second later, the ship dropped into a narrow, twisting slipstream corridor, one Cole had never seen before. When they emerged into normal space, there was nothing but empty stars behind them. Cole turned to the woman. She had already closed her eyes again, drifting into unconsciousness. He sat back slowly, the reality settling in. She had just saved them, and now he was certain. Walking away from her had never been an option. The bed was too soft, the room too big, and the air too sweet, with that strange floral scent that seemed to drift through every corridor. For a few seconds, when he opened his eyes, he almost forgot he wasn't on Earth. But then the ceiling came into view, high, curved, decorated with a pattern of swirling silver lines that glowed faintly. He groaned and rolled onto his side. The events of yesterday returned like a wave. The Queen kneeling, the court staring, the word prophecy hanging over him like a storm cloud. He had been sent to fix a defense grid. Instead, he had somehow become the center of a political and possibly religious drama. Breakfast with a translator. A soft knock came at the door. Ethan pulled on his boots and called, "Yeah, come in." The door slid open to reveal the same female alien who had been in the Queen's chamber yesterday, the translator. She was tall and slender, with bright blue skin and long silver-white hair tied back. Her expression was calm but focused. "Good morning, Engineer Cole," she said in perfect English, her voice smooth. "My name is Lyra. I have been assigned to assist you during your stay." Ethan nodded. "Guess I'm going to need that. Still not great at Varelian, was it?" Lyra gave a small smile. "Most humans struggle with our language. Few have tried in centuries." She placed a tray on the table, fresh fruit in odd shapes, bread-like rolls, and a steaming drink that smelled faintly like cocoa. "The Queen requests your presence in the archives after your meal," Lyra continued. "She wishes you to understand the full prophecy." Ethan sighed. "She still thinks I'm this savior?" Lyra tilted her head. "She does not think. She knows. There is a difference in her mind." The archives after breakfast, Lyra led Ethan through winding palace corridors. The walls here were lined with glass cases holding artifacts, old star, maps, ancient tools, preserved scrolls. Finally, they arrived at a large circular room. The air was cool and dry, smelling faintly of old parchment. Rows of shelves curved around the chamber, filled with books and crystalline data storage orbs. The Queen was already there, standing beside a tall mural. She turned as Ethan entered. "Welcome, Ethan Cole," she said. "Here, the truth of our past waits for you." She gestured to the mural, a vast painting covering the wall from floor to ceiling. It showed scenes of Varelia's history. Great cities, alien ships sailing between stars, battles in the void. One panel drew Ethan's eye immediately. A human figure standing beside a Varelian queen much like Serenia. Together they held up a glowing device toward a darkened sun, which blazed bright again in the next panel. The prophecy explained, Serenia walked slowly along the mural, her voice calm but heavy with meaning. "Thousands of years ago, when our sun first began to fade, our scientists found no solution. But then came the travelers, your people. They were different from all others, resistant to the heat and light near the heart of the star. They worked with our engineers and repaired. The great stellar core conduit, the sun burned bright again." She turned to face him. "When the war came, our alliance with humanity was broken. The conduit was damaged once more, and the humans vanished from our skies. The old writings said one would return when the sun's shadow grew long again." Ethan folded his arms. "And you think that's me? Just because I have some tools and look like the guy in your murals?" Lyra, translating Serenia's words, added softly, "It is not only your tools. Humans emit a different biological resonance. Our radiation shields are useless in the conduit's heart, but your kind can last, minutes longer than any Varelian. In that time you could save us." Ethan stared at the mural. It all sounded impossible. But part of him wondered if there was truth hidden in the myth. He remembered the faint dimness he'd seen in their sun yesterday. The real mission. "All right," Ethan said slowly. "I'm still here to fix your defense grid. Where's the control station?" Lyra nodded. "I will take you." Serenia stepped forward. "And know this, the grid is not the only thing failing. We have detected irregular energy fluctuations near the stellar core conduit. That may be why the grid is malfunctioning." Ethan frowned. "So your defense grid and your sun problem might be connected?" The Queen nodded once. "Perhaps. Which is why your arrival now is no accident." Ethan wasn't sure if he liked where this was going. Into the lower levels, Lyra led Ethan through a series of maintenance corridors beneath the palace. Here, the polished marble gave way to metal walkways, humming conduits, and walls lined with control panels. They reached a large circular chamber filled with consoles. Screens displayed maps of the planet dotted with glowing points, the defense grid nodes. Several were flashing red. Ethan went straight to work, pulling his portable diagnostic kit from his bag. Lyra stood nearby, translating instructions to the Varelian technicians. "Multiple nodes are offline," Ethan muttered, checking the readings. "And, that's weird." Lyra tilted her head. "What is weird?" Ethan tapped the screen. "It's not a system failure. These nodes were shut down on purpose. Someone sent a manual override from inside your network." First signs of sabotage. Before Lyra could respond, a sharp alarm blared. One of the screens showed a security feed from another section of the grid. A shadowy figure moving quickly through a maintenance tunnel, carrying a cylindrical device. Ethan leaned closer. "That's not a repair tool." "What is that?" Lyra's voice dropped. "It is a siphon charge. It drains energy from whatever system it is connected to." Ethan's stomach tightened. "And you think it's connected to your sun problem?" Lyra didn't answer, but her expression said enough. An unexpected attack. Suddenly, the chamber's main doors slammed shut. The lights flickered. Ethan heard a faint hiss, air vents releasing some kind of gas. "Seal your masks!" Lyra shouted, tossing him a small breathing unit. Ethan clamped it over his mouth and nose just as a group of armed aliens burst into the room. They weren't palace guards. Their armor was darker, their weapons sleeker. One of them pointed directly at Ethan. "Take the human!" Ethan barely had time to duck behind a console as energy bolts sizzled past. Lyra drew a short, curved blade from her belt and moved with surprising speed, disarming one attacker and kicking another into a wall. Ethan, thinking fast, grabbed a portable plasma cutter from his kit. He wasn't trained for combat, but a tool was still a tool. As one attacker rushed him, Ethan triggered the cutter, the bright beam forcing the alien to stumble back. The fight lasted less than a minute. The intruders retreated, leaving two of their own unconscious. Aftermath breathing hard, Ethan lowered the plasma cutter. "What the hell was that?" Lyra was already speaking into a comm device. "Security teams are on their way. These were members of the Obsidian Circle. They oppose the Queen's rule." Ethan shook his head. "And they wanted me." "Why?" Lyra met his gaze. "Because if the prophecy is true, you are their greatest threat." Back to the Queen. When they returned to the Queen's chamber, Serenia listened to Lyra's report with a grim expression. "The circle grows bolder," the Queen said. "They know you may be the one to restore the conduit. They will try to stop you." Ethan rubbed his temples. "I didn't sign up for this. I fix machines, not overthrow rebel factions." Serenia stepped closer, lowering her voice. "Ethan Cole, you may believe you came here by chance, but the currents of fate have a way of drawing the right person to the right place. Whether you accept this or not, your presence changes everything." Ethan didn't know what to say. Part of him wanted to walk away, but another part, the stubborn engineer's part, hated broken systems. And if their son was being sabotaged, then this was a system he could fix. The next morning, Ethan Cole was already awake before the palace chimes rang. He had spent most of the night turning over questions in his mind. Questions about the saboteurs, questions about the prophecy, and most of all, questions about why. He was letting himself get pulled into this mess instead of just demanding a ride home. But the truth was, he couldn't walk away. Not yet. He had seen the readings himself. The Varelian sun was unstable. If someone really was siphoning its energy, the whole planet could be doomed within months. And Ethan hated broken systems. Guarded steps, Lyra met him outside his quarters, as always. This time she wasn't alone. 2 palace guards in shining armor flanked her. Ethan gave them a raised eyebrow. Extra security? Lyra nodded. After yesterday's attack, the Queen ordered that you are not to move anywhere without protection. Some nobles have already voiced concerns about the Queen's devotion to you. Ethan frowned. So now I'm a political problem as well as a target. Great. Lyra's mouth curved in a faint smile. Welcome to Varelia, a divided court. The Queen had summoned a gathering in the grand hall. Ethan followed Lyra and the guards in, trying to look like he belonged, though he could feel the weight of dozens of alien stares. Around a large oval table sat members of the Royal Council, tall Varelians in elaborate robes, their skin shades ranging from deep teal to pale aqua. Some looked curious, others openly hostile. One older male counselor rose, speaking in sharp tones. Lyra leaned in to translate quietly. He says the Queen risks everything by trusting an outsider, that you could be a spy sent to weaken us further. Ethan kept his voice low. Nice to be appreciated. Serenia raised a hand, silencing the counselor. Ethan Cole has already uncovered sabotage in our defense grid, she said firmly. Would a spy expose such threats? Another counselor, a woman with silver bands on her arms, stood. Lyra's translation was crisp. She says the obsidian circle grows bolder. If they target the human again, we may lose both him and the prophecy's hope. The room broke into murmurs. Ethan sat silently, feeling like he was in the middle of a game where everyone knew the rules but him. The investigation begins after the council meeting. Serenia ordered Ethan and Lyra to focus entirely on finding the saboteur. The defense grid can wait, she told them. If we stop the energy theft, the grid will recover. Lyra brought Ethan to a secure chamber filled with holographic projectors. She tapped a panel, and an image of the palace and surrounding city rose above the table. These are the maintenance tunnels beneath the primary energy conduits, Lyra explained. The saboteur we saw on the feed was here. Ethan studied the map. If I were trying to steal energy without being noticed, I'd hit a point where multiple systems connect, one that's hard to reach and rarely monitored. Lyra's eyes narrowed. There is such a place. The junction beneath the eastern spire. The eastern spire. That afternoon, Ethan, Lyra, and two guards descended into the lower city, far from the polished halls of the palace. The streets here were narrower, the buildings older. The air smelled faintly of heated metal. They reached a maintenance hatch hidden in an alley. Lyra entered a code, and the heavy door slid open, revealing a narrow tunnel lit by faint blue strips along the ceiling. Ethan led the way, portable scanner in hand. The hum of energy conduits grew louder as they went deeper. Power levels are dropping ahead, Ethan muttered. Someone's drawing a lot of juice from the system. The saboteur. They turned a corner, and there he was, a tall Varelian in dark armor, crouched beside a conduit, connecting a sleek black device to the glowing pipes. The moment he saw them, his eyes widened, and he bolted. "Stop him!" Lyra shouted. Ethan sprinted after the figure, the tunnel echoing with the clang of boots. The saboteur moved fast, weaving through side passages. But Ethan had the advantage of knowing human ship layouts, and these tunnels weren't all that different. He cut across a side route and emerged ahead of the saboteur. The alien skidded to a halt and drew a blade crackling with blue energy. A risky move. Ethan didn't have a weapon, just his portable fusion calibrator. But he knew the devices. Energy pulse could knock a circuit offline, and maybe knock the blade offline too. The saboteur lunged. Ethan ducked, jammed the calibrator into the blade's hilt, and triggered the pulse. Sparks flew. The weapon went dead, and the saboteur stumbled back. Lyra and the guards closed in, weapons ready. The saboteur hissed something, in Varelian, but didn't resist when they restrained him. Interrogation back at the palace, the prisoner was taken to a secure cell. Serenia met Ethan and Lyra in the observation room, her expression unreadable. Through the glass, Ethan saw the saboteur seated at a table, hands bound. "He is a known agent of the Obsidian Circle," Serenia said. But I want to know who gave him the siphon device. Ethan leaned against the wall. He's not the mastermind, just the guy doing the dirty work. Lyra nodded. The circle rarely acts without a patron inside the court. Serenya's gaze hardened. Then we must find the traitor. Court whispers. Over the next 2 days, Ethan noticed the change in atmosphere. Nobles avoided speaking to him directly, but he could feel the tension. Lyra told him rumors were spreading, that the queen had already given him too much trust, that his presence was a danger. One evening, as Ethan crossed the palace gardens, a voice called to him from the shadows. It was the silver-banded female counselor from the meeting. She stepped closer, her tone low. If you value your life, human, you will leave Varelia before the circle silences you. Ethan met her gaze. You think I'm afraid of threats? She gave a faint, humorless smile. I think you do not understand the game you're playing, and pieces like you are the first to fall. Before he could reply, she turned and vanished into the shadows. Danger at night. That warning wasn't idle. Later that night, Ethan's room was plunged into darkness as the power failed. He reached for his portable light, just as the door slid open. 2 figures in dark armor rushed in. Ethan dove to the side, grabbing the plasma cutter from his toolkit. A bolt of blue energy scorched the wall where he had been standing. Before they could fire again, Lyra appeared in the doorway, her blade flashing. The attackers retreated quickly, disappearing into the corridor. Breathing hard, Ethan asked, "How did you know?" Lyra sheathed her blade. "I could not sleep, and I thought, perhaps you should not be alone tonight." A lead. The next morning, Lyra brought Ethan to the archives again. She had been reviewing security logs and found something strange. The access code used to open the eastern spire hatch. It belongs to Counselor Vareth. Ethan recognized the name. The older guy who called me a spy. Lyra's voice was grim. If this is true, then the Circle's influence reaches directly into the Queen's Council. The Plan Serenia listened to their findings and agreed to a risky plan. They would allow the saboteur to believe he had escaped, then follow him to see who he met. Ethan didn't like it. That's dangerous. If he knows we're watching, he might disappear for good. Serenia's golden eyes were steady. It is the only way to draw the snake from hiding. The corridors of the Varelian palace were colder and quieter than ever. Ethan Cole's steps echoed softly as he followed Lyra through the twisting hallways. The shadow of the traitor's escape still hung over the palace like a storm cloud. For days, Ethan had been chasing leads, trying to unravel a web of secrets far more tangled than he'd imagined when he first arrived. The secret meeting that night, the saboteur, known now as Kalen, was allowed to escape from his cell. What Ethan and the Queen's loyalists did not tell him was that Kalen's every move was being watched by hidden palace cameras and discreet guards. Ethan waited in a dark maintenance tunnel, the cool metal walls closing in around him. The sound of soft footsteps echoed ahead. He turned a corner and saw Kalen enter a hidden chamber beneath the palace, a secret meeting place. Through a narrow slit, Ethan could see a group of hooded figures gathered around a holographic star map. The figures spoke in low voices, but their words were clear enough with Lyra's translation device. The Obsidian Circle's plan. The siphon device will drain enough energy to starve the stellar core conduit, one voice said. Without the sun's power, the Queen's reign will collapse and the Obsidian Circle will rise. But the human, he interferes, another whispered. We must stop him before he reaches the core. Ethan's heart pounded. They were not just enemies of the Queen. They wanted to destroy the entire planet's star, to gain power for themselves. Ancient Alliance revealed as Ethan left the hidden chamber. He realized there was more to this war than politics. He and Lyra hurried back to the Queen, eager to share what they had learned. In the Queen's private study, Serenia pulled out an ancient scroll, dust-covered but glowing faintly with old energy. "Long ago," she said, "our people allied with humans across the stars. Together, we built the Stellar Core Conduit, a device that stabilizes our sun." She unrolled the scroll, showing detailed drawings of humans and Varelians working side by side, constructing the massive conduit glowing near their star. "But during the Great Silence, the alliance was broken. Your people vanished from our records and from the stars. We feared you were lost forever." Ethan traced a finger over the drawing, feeling an unexpected connection to these strangers and their history. A dangerous mission. The siphon device is draining power directly from the conduit, Serenia explained. If it is not stopped, the sun will collapse. Only a human can enter the core's radiation zone and repair the damage. Ethan's eyes widened. "You mean I have to go into the heart of the star?" The Queen nodded solemnly. "It is a risk none of my people can take, but your biology makes you uniquely able to survive the radiation long enough to repair the conduit." Ethan swallowed hard. The weight of the prophecy now felt like a chain around his neck. Preparing for the core over the next days, Ethan trained with palace engineers and scientists. They equipped him with a specially designed suit to protect him from the star's intense radiation. It was heavy and uncomfortable, but necessary. Lyra stayed close, helping him learn the ship's controls and the layout of the conduit station, a massive structure orbiting just above the sun's surface. The Queen came often to watch the preparations, her expression a mixture of hope and fear. Betrayal, close to home. Then came the shock. A secret report revealed that Counselor Vareth, the man whose code had opened the Eastern Spire, was more deeply involved than anyone realized. He had secretly conspired with the Obsidian Circle, plotting to use the dying sun to seize power not just on Varelia, but across neighboring star systems. Serenia ordered his arrest, but he escaped before the guards could reach him. A race against time, Ethan felt the pressure mounting. Every moment, the siphon device ran, the sun's life slipped away. With the Queen's blessing, Ethan boarded a small, sleek starship designed to reach the conduit station. Lyra accompanied him, determined to protect him on this dangerous mission. As the ship launched, Ethan looked back at Varelia, a beautiful, fragile world depending on him. Approaching the stellar core conduit, the journey was tense and dangerous. Powerful solar flares and electromagnetic storms battered the ship. Ethan's suit began to glow faintly from radiation exposure, but his human body endured longer than any Varelian's could. Finally, the vast structure of the conduit station came into view, a swirling array of glowing rings and energy nodes surrounding the sun like giant hands holding a flame. The saboteur strikes again. As they docked, sensors picked up movement. Kalen and several armed conspirators had infiltrated the station, aiming to stop Ethan. A fierce battle erupted in zero gravity as Ethan and Lyra fought alongside the Queen's elite guards. Serenia's presence on the station was unexpected. She arrived in a support ship, determined to stand by Ethan's side. The final push Ethan pushed past pain and exhaustion, moving through the conduit's core chambers. He found the siphon device, a black humming machine draining the sun's energy. Using his calibrator, Ethan carefully adjusted the device's settings, reversing the energy flow, restoring the sun. The star brightened, flares stabilizing. The conduit hummed with renewed power. Ethan collapsed, drained but victorious. Serenia knelt beside him, no longer as a queen bound by prophecy, but as a friend grateful beyond words. The new dawn back on Varelia, the court rejoiced as the sun's light returned full and strong. Ethan was no longer just a human engineer. He was a symbol of hope, unity, and strength. The Queen's kneeling was no longer just tradition. It was a true act of respect for the man who saved her world. Ethan Cole lay on the cold floor of the Stellar Core conduit station, chest rising and falling with exhaustion. His body ached, every muscle screaming after the intense radiation exposure and the battle in zero gravity. The steady hum of the conduit surrounded him, a soothing sound after so much chaos. Beside him, Queen Serenia knelt, her golden eyes soft with gratitude and something deeper, respect, friendship, maybe even something more. The moment after victory. The sun outside blazed with renewed strength, light flooding the star system like a newborn's first breath. The conduit's rings glowed brighter than ever, the energy stabilizing as the siphon device's reversal took effect. Ethan struggled to sit up. Serenia reached out, steadying him. Her touch was gentle but firm, a reminder that he was not alone. "You saved us," she whispered. "Not just the sun, but my people." Ethan managed a tired smile. "I just fixed a broken system, like I always do." "But it was more than that," she said, voice trembling slightly. "You risked your life for us, for a people who had almost forgotten humans." Bonds beyond worlds. The journey back to Varelia was slow and cautious. Ethan's radiation suit had weakened him, but he was alive. The Queen's escort ship accompanied them, a symbol of trust and alliance. During the trip, Ethan and Serenia spoke often. The language barrier had lessened thanks to Lyra's help, and between translations and shared moments of silence, a connection grew. Serenia told Ethan of Varelia's history, of ancient wars, lost alliances, and hopes for a future where humans and Varelians stood side by side once more. Ethan shared stories of Earth, of sprawling cities, the blue oceans, and the stars he had dreamed about as a child. Returned to a changed world, when the ship touched down in the palace courtyard, a crowd had gathered, nobles, soldiers, and commoners alike. The sun's light shone brighter than it had in years, and hope filled the air. Serenia stepped forward, her presence commanding silence. She raised her hand, then slowly knelt before Ethan. This time, it was different. There was no prophecy driving her gesture, only genuine respect for the man who had saved her world. A new era begins. In the days that followed, Ethan found himself at the heart of Varelian politics. Some nobles still doubted him, but many more saw the truth in Serenia's words. Together, Ethan and the Queen began rebuilding not just the defense grid, but the fragile trust between their peoples. Plans were made to reopen communication between Varelia and Earth, to share technology, culture, and knowledge. Facing challenges together, but peace was not guaranteed. The Obsidian Circle remained a threat, their defeat only temporary. Ethan knew that true security required more than fixing machines. It required unity and strength beyond technology. He trained alongside Varelian soldiers, learning their ways while teaching them human tactics. Serenia stood beside him, a leader, renewed by hope and determination. Personal moments, late at night, when the palace was quiet, Ethan and Serenia often met on the balcony overlooking the glowing city. They spoke of what the future might hold, a future where humans and Varelians could walk together as allies, friends, maybe something more. Serenia smiled softly one evening. "When I first saw you, I knelt because the prophecy told me to, but now I kneel because I choose to." Ethan took her hand gently. "I'm glad you did." The promise of tomorrow. Months passed. Varelia's sun continued to shine bright, and its people looked forward to a new age. Ethan received a message from Earth. A fleet was on its way. Curious about the sudden alliance, he prepared to meet them, knowing this was only the beginning. As he stood beside Serenia, watching the twin suns set over the alien horizon, Ethan realized something important. HFY. Humans, fool. Yeah, wasn't just about strength or courage, it was about endurance, hope, and the willingness to stand up when the world needed you most, and that was a light that no darkness could ever snuff out.